Hello! About a week ago, I did a video about the best non-legendary fighters to develop or not to develop. And if some of you guys wanted me to do videos like that about other classes, so today I'm gonna do one on Thieves. And there are 6 Thieves in the game that are not legendary that you can get from the normal one. I guess there's 7 if you count the generic one, but we're not gonna talk about him in this video. Or I guess it's a her. It's a female. It's a female beast thief, but like I said, there are 6 different normal named adventurer thieves. There's Jean, Viviana, Philip, Milana, Bakesh, and Amelia. There's 2, even 3 I would say you probably don't want to develop just because the inherits are good. Like I said, it's kind of like fighters. There's some inherits that are just too good to where you really don't want to develop them, because then you won't have them for inherits. And there's 2 that I would definitely say you don't want to develop because of inherits. There's a 3rd I'd say is also probably shouldn't be, but we'll talk about it. Yeah, let's go to the training room here. And let's just go look at inherits. Yeah, ignore my party, have been mostly dead. It was a rough day in the dungeon, but we should do this too. This will make it a bit easier. Should do this in the other video, but right, so first one I would probably recommend against developing is Bakesh. Right, 1 is inherits, pretty important. Treasure trap detection skill increases detection rate of traps on treasure chests, and of course it increases further skill level up. Right, so when your thief when a character tries to open a treasure chest, you will have a skill called treasure trap detection that will be shown, like how many points you are. Right, and this is based on your detect, but also this adds it to it. Like, detect will also help you find traps and enemies and stuff. This only helps you for treasure traps, but this actually gives a pretty significant boost. The first level actually gives a pretty huge boost, but other levels still boost it more. And if you're trying to open treasure chests with your thief, or maybe you're trying to do it with a mage or something, raising this skill higher will make it a lot easier. You're less likely to just trigger a trap before trying to disarm it. Like, say, if your skill of detecting traps is too low, you will literally just trigger the trap and suffer the consequences. And higher you go later in the game, those traps could be pretty deadly. There are some traps that will literally instantly game over you, so you definitely want to try to avoid that. So Bakesh's skills kind of important, but also as a thief, I think he's the worst thief. I just said his speed is terrible, his luck is terrible, his IQ is terrible. Those are all skills you need as a thief. He does have really good dexterity and strength though, which are also good for a thief, but just because if you're using a thief, you probably want to be able to disarm traps and whatnot and detect traps, and he's just not as good for that. But he does, like I said, his secondary class is a fighter. So if you have his scroll, I wouldn't really worry too much about their secondary class unless you get their book already. But if you have it though, he does make a pretty good fighter because he is faster than other dwarves. Like I said, he is actually, being a thief, his base class being a thief makes him faster than other dwarves. He's also air type, which also gives him a bit more speed. So he is a bit faster that way, and he actually does make a pretty good fighter. But for a thief though, he has, like I said, he has good vitality and piety, which are not stats you need as a thief. So just stat wise, he's kind of meh. And like I said, the treasure trap detection skill is super important. You would really want to try to level up that skill as much as you can on your main, treasure trap people. And also even just putting 1 rank treasure trap detection on a few other characters can help, because the first rank does give a pretty big boost. So, but yeah, then there's Jean, who I also recommend because he has the treasure trap disarm skill, similar theme, but this is when after you've tried to open the chest and you've already detected that there's a trap, you'll then go into the disarm mini game. And obviously you want to have a higher disarm skill. Jean is the guy you would use to level that up, right? Or give it to other characters. If you're using a mage as your trap disarm, you want every Jean you can to put in them. But that's to increase that skill. But yeah, it's just the first level, I think, it gives a decent boost, but further levels, still important. Like saying, getting that treasure trap disarm skill as high as you can makes it easier. It makes that target box a little bit bigger. So you can have, so you have a higher chance of success. One thing thieves do get that other classes don't get is that they get a 3rd attempt at disarming traps. So if you are gonna disarm a trap with a thief, like I said, you'll have 3 attempts instead of 2. And like I said, I should probably talk about how these skills work, the detect and disarm. Thieves have the best disarm trap skill. They get it's based on their dexterity and luck. There is a formula for it, and I'm just gonna, like, it's like 70% your dexterity plus 30% your luck times the multiplier. For Thieves, it's 1.1, and that's like your base disarm skill. Like I said, Thieves have the best. Their detect skill is not quite as good. Detect is based on IQ and luck, so it's like 70% of your IQ plus 30% of your luck, and that's times, for Thieves, 0.95. This is why a lot of people like to use mages at high levels, because mages get a 1.15% modifier on detect, so you end up with a higher detect than Thieves. So Thieves definitely, like I said, right, those, what I talked about with Bakesh a second ago, like, you really do want to use those Bakesh to try to keep the Thieves treasure trap detect skill high enough so they don't trigger traps, because if you're said triggering traps like accidentally, could definitely be a game over. But yeah, so that's how those skills work. And like I said, if you're using a Thief, you're probably using him to open traps, so I do recommend using the treasure trap. Try to use Jean's, try to level your disarm skills up, and Bakesh to level up your trap detection skills. It should be noted that one interesting note about Jean is that he is Earth type. His secondary class is Mage. It's notable because he's the only non-legendary character who could become an Earth Mage, right? But yeah, which is interesting. It's not worth noting. But on the other hand, if you want an Earth Mage, I just try to get you Kathrine. She is arguably the best character in the game. Like, yeah, she's legendary, but she's worth it. Like, I would just pass on Jean. Like, you don't need him as a thief or a mage. Like I said, there's other options for thieves. There's better options for mages. So, like I said, just use it for the treasure trap disarm skill. Level that up as much as you can. But yeah, so those are the two I would say definitely don't invest in. Bakesh and Jean, for the reasons I stated. The other one I think is, probably not invest in is Amelia. I actually think Amelia is a fine thief. I think she has pretty good stats. She has really good speed. She has decent dexterity. Like I said, she has just decent stats for a thief. But her skill is stealth. You can use stealth. Like hers inherent stealth, like, increases initiative rate. Might not sound that great. But the higher you level the skill, the higher your initiative rate increase can go. And this is a skill you really just want to max out on your main character as soon as possible. And maxing out on your main character, you're going to need about 30 Amelias. But getting initiative will save you a lot of resources in dungeon. It'll just make fights easier. Like I said, initiative could be an absolute lifesaver in the dungeon. Amelia is the one that helps you level that up. So absolutely recommend... Like I said, I recommend just using all your Amelias to just level up stealth on your main character. Just try to max out all your main character. So that would leave the last three thieves of Philip, Viviana, and Milana. So Philip's inherit is delay attack. It's okay. I don't think it, like I said, it's one of those skills that it's okay to use once in a while. I'm not sure it benefits too much from leveling up. Your probability increased with action speed further decreased based on level. It said it can be a nice one. Like I said, it might be worth leveling up on one, but it's not a skill I use too much because it's just, if you're gonna go higher skill, like, it's just, there's generally better skills to use your turn for, but it's not the worst one. It's not, like I said, there's definitely worse skills to inherit. Like, and if you aren't using Philip, it's totally fine to level this up on like on one your main thief, or like on a character you're using delay attack with. Totally fine to use him to level that up. But if you are using Philip, like I said, he's pretty solid. His passive gives him better accuracy even when an enemy is farther away. So he gets, like I said, so it just makes it but more. His damage a bit more consistent. He's less likely to miss. His discipline is also really good in that when you discipline him, he gets extra attack power and extra action speed. So just super, super good discipline. Like I said, so it's just right. So he gets really good attack. He gets good speed. So he's probably, like I said, he's one of the best, like I'd say one of the best thieves. Just really solid stats overall. I don't know if he'd say he's the best thief though. I'd say the best thief is probably Milana. Like I said, her inherit's not that great. Poison attack is just not that great of an inherit. So you're not really missing out on anything if you invest. If you don't have that inherit, like it's just not that great of skill. That's supposedly what the skills are gonna buff in their skill rework. So maybe it'll be better. But right now, as it is now, poison attack's not really ever worth using. So this is a character that, you lose nothing by investing in her. If you aren't using her, she's probably a dismiss for tags candidate, but they are supposed to be buffed with poison attack. But Milana, though, Her passive skill is super good. It's mutual interest. So long as the character either in front of her or behind her is evil aligned, both Milana and that character will gain an attack bonus. Like I said, she's pretty much the Elise of thieves. Like I talked about how Elise was probably the best fighter. Milana is probably the best thief for the same reason. And this does stack with Alice's Agent of Heresy. So if you have Milana and Alice in the same row, or another character, like evil character, that's right in front or behind Milan in the same row as Alice, they'll get both those buffs. Like I said, just kind of like show right here, like you can see both the mutual interest and Agent of Heresy both adding attack up. It's like I said, it's like both of them add like a 10% attack boost. They're totally stackable. So Milana's passive, probably the best one. And she has really good IQ. She's also dark type. In her secondary class of mage, if you get her mage scroll, she actually makes a pretty good mage. Like I said, she's a dark mage, so would learn the dark spells, Zelos, Mausolos, and Lazalos. Yeah, there's a couple of other characters. Like I said, the only character who can learn those spells without a class change is the generic elf mag, who is actually pretty good. I use her all the time, but Milana's a character who would probably be a bit better if you want somebody who has a mage. If you can get her book, like I said, don't worry too much about their secondary class unless you can get their book or you have it already. But she is a great candidate for mage. Sending her base, like I said, IQ is pretty good. And if you got, rolled Milana with like a +1, with that +1 bonus in intelligence from the get-go, that would actually help her more when she does become mage, or if you want her to become a mage. But otherwise, like I said, IQ is also just super important for detecting traps when you're trying to open chests. So she's just really solid. Like I said, nothing really bad to say about Milana. Like I said, I actually have a Milana who's level 50, who I apparently didn't unlock because she's listed in this list here. But yeah, like Milana, definitely you could recommend her as a thief. And again, her at least right now, it's supposed to get buffed. You're not losing much if you're doing it. And then that leaves Viviana's the last one. So her passive is hiding. It's thief specific. It is only usable by thieves. Like I said, it does increase some ability stuff. It's an okay skill, but it's just, right, it's only useful on your thief, and if you're, not using a thief, then, or if you change your thief to a different class, it's not that great. So this is a skill that you pretty much don't benefit much from. You can pretty much, like I said, Viviana's another character who is just a good candidate for dismiss for tags. It's kind of like I said, where all of us just kind of great option for investing, because there's not really, you're not losing anything by, investing in her. Viviana's the same way. You're not losing a whole lot. Her passive's decent, though. She does, if she's wearing cloth armor, she gets an evasion boost, which can actually help her survivability. It's counterintuitive since, she has to wear cloth instead of leather, though these don't necessarily have the best. They don't have, I don't think they get to wear the heavy armor. They get to wear medium armor, but they'd have to wear light armor or whatever. Cloth, for her specific case, cloth armor. So she would lose the defense from that, but thieves get better. These have better evasion than armor anyway, so you could definitely use her as a character stack evasion. Other notable thing about Viviana is that her secondary class is cleric, and she is the only character in the game who can be both a thief and a cleric outside the main character. She's the only one that gets thief and cleric skills, and this is probably the most notable thing is that is if you make her a priest. Sorry, it's priest rather. I said cleric, but if you make her a priest, priests actually have this passive. I think they get it level 30, 25 or 30-ish, but they get a passive that adds their piety to their attack. It's not particularly great for priests, but if you have Viviana, you make her a priest and then eventually make her a thief again, she still gets that extra piety to her attack, so then she'd now all of a sudden be doing a lot more damage with thief weapons. If you put it in front of daggers on, she'd have that piety bonus to all of her attack rolls. So a level 60, Viviana's probably going to have 40-ish piety or whatever, depending if you said, depending on how your stats rolled, but she'll probably around 40 piety or so, and that's just going to add, it's getting an extra 40 strength. So, that would actually add quite a bit of damage for her. So it's actually a pretty good secondary class just to make her a better thief. Plus she'd have all the abilities, all those abilities that would remove debuffs and stuff, all those cure status of condition stuff Diodor and Kufsis and stuff that it's really hard to learn. There's not too many skill books around for those abilities, so she would just be able to get those. So she's pretty, I think she's pretty solid, but again, all of you lose nothing by investing in her. If you aren't Like, if you aren't using her, you can use her. She's a dismiss for tags candidate. But yeah, those are the ones I would recommend. Like, it's those, like, those are the 3 I would say recommend. I'd say Milana's the best, and followed by Philip, and then Viviana. She needs more work, but she has, like I said, some interesting stuff. Like I said, I do think, like, Viviana, like I said, I do think to get her the most out of her, you really do need both her priest and her thief book. But again, supposedly they're gonna make it a bit easier, change back to your original class. We'll have to see how that happens, but yeah, not too much more to say on that one. If you missed my original video about fighters, you can find that one down below. As always, thank you for watching.
Safe travel.